What's going on, you guys? It's Dana Patrice, aka the Black Fairy, and welcome back to my channel. Let's get into it, okay? What if I told you that men might be disappearing? Not by choice, but by biology. That's right. Scientists believe the Y chromosome, the one that determines maleness in humans, is actually slowly shrinking. And it could even disappear completely in the future. This video is part 2 of a series. Last time we explored species that evolved beyond males. Today we're diving deeper into humanity's own blueprint to ask, what happens if the Y chromosome vanishes? And maybe even more important, what does that say about the systems we've built around gender and power?
Yes. I fall in love with myself, and I want someone to share it with me. I want someone to share me with me.
So let's get a bit deeper into what the Y chromosome actually is. The Y chromosome is one of the 2 sex chromosomes in humans. Most people have 2 X's, typically developing female, and XY that typically develops males. But here's what makes the Y so different. While most chromosomes carry thousands of genes, the Y has fewer than 100 that are actually functional. Okay, you compare that to the X, which has over 1,000. The Y is tiny, stripped down, and fragile. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. The Y chromosome didn't always exist. Scientists believe it started out as a regular pair of chromosomes about 180 million years ago. At some point, one chromosome picked up a mutation, the ancestor of the SRY gene, which is what triggers male development. From then on, that chromosome, what became the Y, was locked into a whole new role. But because it stopped recombining with its ex-partner, it began to degrade. Over time, it lost hundreds of genes, shrinking into the stripped-down version we see today. So in essence, the Y is a mutation of the X, fragile, unstable, and constantly losing ground. So what did reproduction look like before the Y appeared? Well, sex determination didn't depend on chromosomes. Many early vertebrates used environmental systems, things like temperature or social conditions, to decide if an embryo developed male or female traits. We still see this today in turtles, crocodiles, and even some fish. Now, in early mammals, sex may have been influenced by genes spread across the genome, not locked into one fragile chromosome. That means female wasn't just like the default. Female was just the original blueprint of life. Male biology, in this view, was later. Pretty much an evolutionary mix, or remix, I should say, if you will. So here's where things get even a bit, just a little bit more spicier. The Y chromosome has been shrinking for millions of years now. At one point, it had hundreds of genes. Now it has fewer than 100. Okay? Some scientists predict that it could disappear entirely within 5 to 10 million years. Others argue that it's stabilized and found ways to hang on. Either way, the Y's instability has raised a big question. What happens if it's gone? I actually found this really cool TikTok video from a scientist, and I'm going to play it now so you can kind of hear her break it down.
This news has been making headlines. The Y chromosome is disappearing.
The Y chromosome is slowly disappearing due to evolutionary changes.
The logic being that 166 million years ago, the X chromosome and the Y chromosome used to be the same size. But since then, the Y chromosome has lost a significant number of active genes, shrinking from 900 to 55 genes. So if you follow the logic to the end, it implies that in the next couple million years, men will go extinct. But that's not true, nor is it the question that we should be actually asking. What we should be focusing on is why the Y chromosome is seemingly disappearing. Most chromosomes come in pairs in case of any harmful mutations. It's like nature's backup system. If one gets a bad mutation, then the other can step in with healthy DNA through something called genetic recombination. And if you think about it, most of our body follows similar rules. We have 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 lungs, 2 kidneys, and so on. But alas, the Y chromosome does not. It is a single Pringle. As a result, this sadly means that the Y chromosome cannot participate in this genetic swap meet. Instead, it continues to accumulate these mutations until the genes basically go kaput and disappear completely. Hence the whittling down of the Y chromosome genes from 900 to 55. Mind you, over the course of 166 million years. So it is a slow but steady process. But the mutations don't end at the Y chromosome. Men can produce sperm throughout their life and thus are constantly dividing new cells in their testes. Each time you divide a cell, you open that cell up to the possibility of creating a new mutation. Meanwhile, women are born with all the eggs they'll ever produce. So with this doubling down of mutations, it's actually not that wild to state that the Y chromosome might end up disappearing forever, especially since it's already happened. The umami spiny rats don't have a Y chromosome, but they used to 2 million years ago. Now both males and females just have one X chromosome, but they are still male and female without the full sex chromosomes. How is that possible? That was a question that Asato Kuriiwa and her research team at Hokkaido University aimed to solve. Turns out that the male rats had a duplication of SOX9 on their chromosome 3. And SOX9 happens to be a key gene in the SRY region that signals to the embryo to grow testes. This duplication on chromosome 3 boosts SOX9 activity, meaning it ultimately has the same effect as the Y chromosome. With 2 genes doing the same job, there was a redundancy, and our body does not do redundancies. It's too efficient for that. So over time, the Y chromosome disappeared entirely, making chromosome 3 effectively the new Y chromosome. And it's believed that the same could hold true for humans. So even if the Y chromosome decides to ghost us, men won't suddenly vanish. The Y chromosome might be downsizing, but your manhood is not. That sounds way worse said out loud than it did on paper. You know what I mean.
Interesting, right? I learned a lot on this. So what happens if the Y disappears? Has been another question that I've asked and done a little bit of research on. I am no expert, y'all. I'm just gathering information. Okay? But according to what I found, humanity wouldn't necessarily vanish. Okay? That's the thing. A lot of people think like, oh, humanity would just vanish. But actually other species that have lost their Y evolved into different systems, right? Mole voles, for example, created entirely new sex-determining genes when their Ys vanished. Birds and reptiles already run on totally different systems. And let's be real, science and technology are already rewriting the rules of reproduction. Scientists have created sperm cells from female cells in mice. That means in the future, human reproduction may not require a Y at all. Now, here's the part that I find most poetic. Patriarchy built an entire system on biological dominance of men. But if the Y is fading, what does that say about the story we've been told? Maybe the fragility of the Y shows us that maleness was never as stable or as dominant as patriarchy made it seem. Maybe nature itself has been whispering all along. Male was a mutation, female was the original state, and balance, not domination, is the true order of life. Now, here's another scientist that I found that kind of even breaks down that not only is the Y chromosome shrinking over time, but it's actually actively shrinking within men as they age. Yeah, let's get into it.
Men are losing their Y chromosomes as they get older, and this might explain why women live longer than men on average. You see, in most cases, men have XY chromosomes, and those XY chromosomes are in every single cell in their body. However, as men age and make different decisions on how to treat their body throughout their lifetime, they can undergo something called mosaic loss of the Y chromosome as they get older. Now, mosaic loss of the Y chromosome is basically whenever some cells in your body have their XY chromosomes as they're supposed to, while other cells in your body seem to lose the Y. And this loss of the Y chromosome can be a biomarker for a lot of different health issues. For instance, according to this publication from 2016, it's been associated with Alzheimer's disease, and that's not even close to the end of it, as this loss of the Y chromosome has also been seen to be associated with things like an increased cancer risk, increased risk of autoimmune disease, and according to an extremely recent paper, that being from this year, losing the Y chromosome in your blood cells might even increase your risk of fatal heart attacks. As according to this publication, that loss of the Y chromosome in blood cells has been seen to be a major risk factor in heart disease deaths of men. So yeah, losing your Y chromosome in some of your cells during your lifetime is extremely scary. So what can you do to limit your chances of having mosaic Y chromosome loss? Well, for one, if you smoke, you should probably stop doing that. As according to this paper, among many others, men who smoke seem to have an increased risk of losing their Y chromosome in their cells. There are also other lifestyle choices that affect your chances of losing the Y chromosome as you age, such as heavily drinking and even having high amounts of exposure to air pollution. So in short, take care of yourself, because your lifestyle choices might be a make or break for your Y chromosomes in the future.
That was very interesting for me. The clip, I was like, oh, wow. Like, I had heard about it, dissolving over time. But I didn't realize that it's actually dissolving within the men around us. Okay, that was very different. So is the Y chromosome disappearing? Yes, slowly. But whether it vanishes or survives, humanity will likely adapt. Biology is very flexible. Evolution is super creative. The bigger question is, will we adapt our social systems? Will we keep clinging to patriarchy even as nature evolves past it? Or will we learn to embrace the truth that the future is far more fluid than the rigid binaries we've been forced into? I don't know. I guess we'll see. Well, actually, it won't happen in our lifetime, so we won't see. But it's interesting to think about. Thank you so much for watching, Fairy Fam. If you love this dive into science and society, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Okay, click that notification bell and tell me in the comments, do you think men are going extinct? Or is patriarchy just projecting its own fears onto biology? I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see where science and nature leads us.
Yes. I fall in love with myself, and I want someone to share it with me. I want someone to share me with me.